I mentioned at the start of the show, we have a guest joining us in studio. I always love when the guests can come into studio. He's joined us several other times, Victor Avila. Before I get him on, we're going to be talking about, because he's just been down to the border, and we're going to be talking about what the border of America really is like these days, what's actually going on at the border. But before we do, I want to show you his new book, which he just signed for me. I was going to ask him about it. He brought me this book. It's called Agent Under Fire, A Murder and a Manifesto. Victor Avila. This is the topic of the last time he was here, and I hope we get to it today. But the real reason I asked him to come in today is because he has been down to the Texas border with Mexico very recently and can kind of give us a firsthand impression of what's really going on there, because the Biden administration has tried to repress the media, tried to not have stories out, not have pictures out. Many people deeply concerned about what's happening at our border. And so we have Victor Avila in the studio. He is a, we don't say former, retired ICE special agent. He's a former, actually, supervisory special agent with ICE, Homeland Security, and he's worked at the border for years. And I want to have him, so he's really got knowledge of how the border is supposed to be functioning and what's actually happening there. So without further introduction, hello, Victor.
Hi, Debbie. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. And I really hope we get to your book. And actually, the reason you were here before was to tell the story about what was in your book, and we'll get to that. But I'm hearing, actually, the reason you're here also is because I ran into a good friend of yours at a political function and said, you've got to get Victor back on the show, tell about his latest adventures at the border. So just starting out, how recently did you go down to the border? How long were you down there?
I was there last week for a couple of days, and let me tell you, in my 20 years of experience as a law enforcement officer, that I worked most of my career on the border and in Mexico, had never seen anything like this. You know, they call it the crisis. It is a crisis beyond a crisis. It's a disaster. And I went through a lot of feelings when I was down there. I couldn't believe what was happening before my eyes. I actually went down there, and this was on my own. I paid my way down there, and I made contacts with some of the colleagues, and I was able to get a tour of the border, down to the levee, down to the river, where you see these videos, the roads where these migrants are coming in, traveled through all that, and went down there and talked firsthand with our Border Patrol agents. And I really wanted to hear what they had to say, because I want to be a voice for them. You know, the gag order has been in effect. They were so on edge. They're so afraid that any media might come up to them. They're so on edge because they are doing things that are not part of their scope of their employment. All they want to do is go back to patrol the border and actually enforce the laws, but they're not being allowed to do that.
Okay, let's start with where. I know this is the Texas border with Mexico. Where along that border were you? What area?
It was mostly the McAllen, Mission, Texas area, where the big Donna Center is. I actually went into the facility. I got access to the inside of the outside. I really didn't push my way inside because we've already started seeing images of the inside. But what I did see on the outside was these huge new construction projects of 2 to 3 times the size of the original one that they're building to accommodate more migrants, either children or family units. And I'm thinking to myself, this is not the answer for border security, is to build more facilities. We need to address the issue down south, and how do we stop the flow?
Absolutely. Well, what is the story when you went and talked to some, I mean, we talked on the phone a bit last night, and I want to try to just get you going telling those stories, but you were down in an area where people had come across the river. And describe what you were seeing, how they do that, and what then Border Patrol's job was as these people come across the river.
So this area right by the river, the Border Patrol is stationed about 2 miles north of the river. And this is a big brushy roads, a bunch of roads that these migrants are having a hard time getting through and navigating those 2 miles to turn themselves in to Border Patrol. These are supposedly the asylum seekers. And let me tell you, I didn't hear the word asylum once in the 48 hours that I was there. They've kind of forgotten that they have to seek that, and the way to seek asylum is through official port of entry, not through the river. Anyway, they walk through. Some of them were getting lost. They're getting dehydrated. So they actually have signs that Border Patrol that put up arrows and signage to let them navigate them, to get them to this first under a bridge where they turn themselves into Border Patrol. When I was there, there was a group of 400 plus individuals, men, women, and children. And I was still under the assumption that they were going to be then transferred to a Donna facility or another facility in McAllen. But that group that was there was actually released to the streets. They were released, put on a bus, released to the to the bus station in McAllen, Texas. And I followed that bus over there. I saw them get there, going to a tent that FEMA set up across the street from the bus station in McAllen, Texas, where they get the only test they got at that time was a COVID test. And then they get released into, there's a charity place that gives them toiletries, that gives them clothing, gets them an opportunity to wash up and get a meal. And then they get money from somewhere. They weren't able to tell me where, if it's a family member that sends them or it's another NGO, a non-governmental organization that gives them their money to board an airplane or a bus without an ID.
Okay, let's go back to the river. So these people coming across the river, are you talking about mostly families, or are you talking about young, you say unaccompanied minors, but I mean teenagers, near adults? What's the age range of these people?
So they're all coming through, and what had recently happened, and this is coming straight from the Border Patrol, that they stopped seeing these young males come in that were commingled with the family units. They were all coming in together at once, and then all of a sudden the young males stopped, and it was only family units. It's they think it's the mother, father, and child. Sometimes it's just a male with a child, or just a woman with a child, or 2 or 3 children. What they tell me is that these 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds up to 25-year-olds, the cartel started vetting them on the other side and stopped sending them with the family units in case they did have criminal history, in case they did have ties to a gang or to the cartels. And so they are being smuggled in without being detected. And there's still a lot of that happening. The smuggling continues, the trafficking and the drug smuggling continues to this day.
So on the Mexican side, the drug cartels, the smugglers are actually identifying and pulling the young men, something range 17 or so and older, and then smuggling them in. And so what is the reason? I mean, it seems obvious, but why are these smugglers wanting these people to get in America undetected, not with families? Is it because they're going to end up working for the cartels? Is that?
That's one for sure. And I asked the Border Patrol, why are they separating them? They're separating them and kind of helping, believe it or not, Border Patrol. They don't want Border Patrol to detect them. They don't want Border Patrol to deal with them because in some instances they do get taken to the detention facilities and they get the checks run on them and the background and fingerprints. In the case that I saw, none of them got that, by the way. There was no notice to appear, which is an NTA that is issued to the illegal alien for their appearance to a court date for their asylum hearing sometime in the next 2 or 3 years. They're not even receiving that. They are just literally being escorted into our country, one COVID test, and that's it. They're gone.
So the thing that we always assume happens at the border, that we maybe can't immediately detain them until we hold an asylum hearing, but we give them a notice to appear. At what you saw, that is not even happening. They're just captured and released.
Yes, it is so disheartening to see that. And when I was there, I went through a lot of emotions. There was confusion. I've never seen this happen in our country before. There's absolutely no immigration law being enforced on the border right now. None. And there's other violations. We have young men that are 20, 18, 19, 20-year-olds claiming to be 17 to be allowed in as an unaccompanied minor, and there's no one to verify that. The consulates in these countries are nowhere to be found that could check at least their date of birth or identity. So we're just taking their word for it and treat it as an unaccompanied minor because the individual says he's 17 years old.
Wow. So when you get to this area where you're saying they're sent off on buses, are they being sent because they have an organized system and they've identified a place they're going? I mean, who decides where they're going to be sent?
They are highly, highly organized. These charities that...
They is the charities.
The charities, these NGOs, they wouldn't answer the question of where these funds are coming from that gets them their final, boarding pass or airline ticket. They say that the family sends it to them. I tend not to believe that. These individuals already paid up to $4,000 plus an additional $400 to get on the raft just to get brought over the river. And all of a sudden, they want me to believe that family members are sending additional money. I think the cartels, along with the NGOs, there's a lot of things happening here. The individuals are owing this money and are kind of becoming into an indentured servitude kind of position with the cartels, that they will continue to owe these cartels wherever they end up. And they're going, the ones that I saw there were going to predominantly to the northeast part of the country, Virginia, Maryland, up north, New Jersey. and they have addresses, they have phone numbers. We have these migrants with phone numbers written on their forearms. We have individuals being tagged by the cartel with color-coded bracelets to determine whether or not they've already paid or have not paid.
I got to jump in because I want to make sure people are following this. The cartels themselves are giving these young people, or however old they really are, who are entering America illegally, giving them colored wristbands to indicate how much money that person still owes the cartel? Is that what you're saying?
How much money they owe, or if in fact they owe all of it, or if they're fully paid, and separating them that way so they can keep track themselves. You see, the cartels control all of that in Mexico. There's no individual that comes in through Mexico and is not encountered by the cartels. You cannot be smuggled. Even if you're turning yourself into Border Patrol and seeking asylum, you still will pay the fee to the cartels. And we're bringing up the point of the two individuals that we found out about yesterday from Yemen. And I've been saying this for many, many years. I've encountered these individuals in Mexico when I worked there. I interviewed them, individuals from Bangladesh, from Yemen, from Somalia, from Pakistan, from special interest countries that we consider special interest aliens. These individuals that were caught at two separate occasions were on the no-fly list, on the terrorist watch list. These are the people that are coming in through Mexico as well.
And they'd already made their way across the border.
Yes, and
so
luckily
they're in America, and they are on our no-fly list. They're wanted terrorists, and they're in our country.
Yes,
luckily. And so what do we do if we find that out? What do we do with them?
Luckily, these were detected and arrested. There was 11 Iranians about a month and a half ago in Arizona, detected by Border Patrol. Thank goodness for that. But the point is that the border is so wide open right now because the cartels know that the Border Patrol is so overwhelmed with taking care of the unaccompanied minors and the caravanners and these large groups of people that there's no one patrolling. There's the Texas Department of Public Safety doing a great job in trying to back up the Border Patrol in the patrolling of the river, and they've saved lives. There's been drownings. When I was there was a body. An adult person that drowned, and it's going to continue to happen because the cartels don't care. You've seen the videos of them throwing the children over the fence. They don't care.
Right, or
they have no regard for life or human life. They just care about getting their money.
So I got to go back to the cartels. So they give them these wristbands, and so some people, you pay the cartel, and what you're paying them for is because they're helping get in America. That's what you're paying for. But if you owe them money still, and you still get in, then you're expected to come to America and do the bidding of the drug cartels here in America somehow to earn your way.
That's right. And a lot of these young individuals, these 17-year-olds, by the way, a lot of them already work for the cartels. A lot of them have been recruited at a young age, not just in Mexico, but in Central America. And they're going to continue to work for the cartels when they get to Chicago, when they get to their final destination. There's no sustainability by this administration. There's no, they didn't foresee the problems of these individuals. Did they expect that they're going to just jump into a high school and assimilate from one day to the other? Border Patrol tells me a high number of them can read or write Spanish. They're coming with cannot read or write Spanish. They are bringing other illnesses like tuberculosis, cholera, and lice, other issues, health issues, not just COVID, by the way. And so it's a big issue that's going to affect a lot of communities in our country as the months move forward and the numbers continue to grow. The March numbers came out. It's 170,000 plus. At this rate, we're going to be over 1.5 million by the end of the year.
Yeah, I was going to go to the numbers in a second, and I also want to, though, before I lose track here, I want to go back to the Yemenis from the country of Yemen coming into America. So they obviously didn't walk here. So how did these people, do you know what the route is? I mean, it probably isn't just one route, but what is the way these people from potentially terrorist people, getting to America's southern border of Mexico? Like, how do they get there?
They have very different smuggling routes and very distinguished smuggling routes that they start from their home country. And South America is a point for them to get. There's a big conflict going on in Chile, Colombia, Venezuela. We know the situation there. And all they want to do is hit into that Central America area because, you have the three countries there, the Northern Triangle, that you could travel within those three countries. So once you're in Guatemala, you're as good as being in Mexico because we know Mexico is not helping and keeping them out. And so that's the way they make their final destination into Mexico, knowing that all they have to do is come in and seek asylum. Obviously not the ones that are on the terror watch list, but that's the key here. It's a national security issue that we are ignoring this part of the immigration part, that these individuals are coming into our country.
So when we capture these kind of people that are on our terror watch list, is our only remedy just to send them back, or do we actually process them for criminal prosecution here?
No, they're going to be detained. They'll be investigated. These are individuals of high risk, and we're going to check all of their background, and of course all of their any associations with other kind of terrorist organizations. And there's a lot of those individuals that are doing that, and a lot of them coming in undetected. I sent a video of a tractor trailer about a week ago, just south of San Antonio, and you just see all these males, mostly males, jumping off the back of a tractor trailer, being offloaded there. These individuals didn't turn themselves in. They still are many individuals not wanting to be detected by the Border Patrol.
And some number of them, some percentage of them, may be either Middle Eastern. They may be just gang members who the cartels have gotten a hold of in Mexico, and we don't have a way at our border. We're simply not able to detect every one of them as they come across.
That's right.
Can't do it.
And then really quick, another portion of our prior deports. These are individuals that were in the U.S., convicted of sex offenses, convicted of violent crimes, deported. Guess what? They're trying to come back. Border Patrol has done a good job of interdicting some that want to come back. A lot of sex offenders, by the way, but a lot of them still manage to make their way back into the U.S.
Okay, so all this is happening right now in 2021. Is a lot of this happening because of a change in border policy in the current administration under President Biden as compared with the Trump administration's policy? Is it policy changes that is causing this overrunning of our border?
Absolutely. It's not even policy changes. It's the ignoring the enforcing of our laws.
Failure to enforce the law and the border.
The Border Patrol, all they want to do is go back and protect our homeland and protect the line, and they're unable to do that. And absolutely, the policies that they have in place right now are obviously not working. You saw the implementation of the prior administration and what good it did, and It was working. We had this kind of crisis in 2019. It started working with the Remain in Mexico policy, the Title 42 implementation of that law because of the pandemic. But all that was erased by this administration, the wall. Now I hear that DHS secretary might want to go back and plug in some of those, because I saw those gaps. Let me tell you, they stopped from one moment to the next on that construction of the wall. The access roads for our Border Patrol agents to get to that area to patrol are demolished because of the construction. So there was no effort to at least finish some of those projects.
Okay. Wow. I really think the American people, people of different levels of interest in immigration and maybe more immigration and all sorts of, how much compassion we should show for people coming here from impoverished countries. But this is a national security issue. This is a drug smuggler issue. This is a sex trafficker issue. This is a terrorist issue. And so the Border Patrol agents you talk to, they don't want to be part of what the policy. They would rather be enforcing the border. Was that clear to you?
Absolutely. They don't want to be transporters. They don't want to be, I call them medical assistants, MAs. They don't want to do that. They don't want to be able to take these people and then release them into the streets. Forget the ones, and some that are going into the camps. Okay, that's another process, but not everyone, like President Biden said, that they're being sent back. Most of them are being sent back. That is not true. As a matter of fact, not only are not being sent back, they're being allowed in without any notice to appear, without any prior records checks that usually Border Patrol does.
I'm so glad to know this. I actually think more people are becoming aware. Okay, one last other quick thing. So when these people get here, you mentioned some of them end up being because NGOs or something provide their transportation, whether on a bus or a plane ticket. These people are boarding buses and plane tickets without any official ID, whether from their home country or America. They're just saying, hey, my name is such and such, and we take that at face value. Is that right?
That's correct. I even talked to the Border Patrol agent assigned to the airport there in Harlingen. And because I saw the illegal aliens at the airport when I was traveling to and when I was coming back. And I just couldn't believe it. That I said, what are they using to gain access? Is the airline the one that's waiving this
Yeah.
I mean, who is it that's allowing them? They're using a Form 213 that Border Patrol gives them, which is their name and address and whatever information the alien gave. And there's no vetting of that information. Whatever they provide, they're taking the word for it. That's what they're allowing them to gain access to our airplanes.
So they get on airlines. I mean, these are, like, I think American Airlines is down there, Southwest.
American and Southwest.
Yeah. They're getting on planes where we get double checked on having a proper ID, and they have an ID that's comprised of whatever name they gave, and we fill out a form at the border and say, here you go.
Right.
Okay. So there was actually talk about the idea that this border chaos, Biden's border chaos, was creating a massive stimulus for cartels and human traffickers. I mean, they're actually financially benefiting from this failure to enforce the border. Is that accurate?
That's absolutely true. I mean, the figure that I read was $14 million a day, and I did some numbers. If we have 200,000 people that come in at $4,000 a head, that's $800 million. Absolutely, the cartels are the ones benefiting from this. There's no benefit here in our communities because we're going to have to absorb these individuals into our community. We're going to have issues with our schooling, healthcare system, and crime. And that goes without saying. You will see it come to a town near you, but the cartels are the ones making bank with the policies of this administration.
Yeah, it's very alarming, obviously, on many levels, but you kind of wonder when there's going to be a more vocal pushback from the American people. I think people are starting to be aware, and they're thinking, and when, I guess, if they come to their own community, if they are the recipients of a large group of people who, end up putting a strain on the criminal justice system, education system, healthcare system, then you might get the pushback, but this is like a silent invasion.
It really is, and I tell people ask me, what's the solution? You need to put the pressure on the administration, continue at the local level. It starts there. To make people aware of really what's happening down there. And this cannot continue the way it is. That we're going to continue to see drownings and deaths and other horrific things happen at the border. Plus, we're going to see, I met with families of angel moms and angel dads down there in a press conference.
You should tell what that means.
Yeah, angel moms and angel dads, these are U.S. citizens that were victimized at the hands of an illegal alien. They were killed by an illegal alien here in the United States, either by drunk driving or a violent act.
Their sons or daughters.
Their sons or daughters were killed by an illegal alien. And a lot of those times, these sanctuary city policies from these cities protected and released these individuals rather than contacting ICE to detain them and deport them back. And they should have been in custody. So we can't forget about them, that they've been victims of the hands of these illegal aliens in our country.
Well, this is among the frustrations people feel in America right now, patriots all across the country, because we don't feel like we have a voice in Washington. I mean, we have some members of the Congress or Senate who allegedly represent the conservative side, but we really don't have any power. I mean, we can contact congressmen, contact senators, say, please support this, please don't fund this. But there's got to be more of a message from the people, just from the people to Congress saying, to Washington, because I think the Biden team wants to be reelected, or whoever's really running the country. I don't think it's Biden. Whoever it is really running the country, they want to be reelected. And so it just seems like there has to be a massive voice in the people saying, we actually want our border back.
Yes, and I was telling you the feelings that I was feeling when I was down there. I was standing down there. I felt helpless. I felt sometimes even embarrassed to think that this is happening, because this is not America. I'm all for and I'm very pro-legal immigration. And by the way, what about those individuals that have been doing it the right way all this time?
Yeah.
Have been waiting for years. They've done the medical backgrounds, the criminal history checks, and paid all their fees and applications. They're waiting. They might as well go into Mexico and come in illegally.
A lot faster. Yeah. Okay, I also saw this number. You had some numbers, I think, in mind, but the month of March, border crossings jumped to a 15-year high. I mean, think about it. You've worked on the border. You've worked on the Mexican side. What reason is there for anyone who really would prefer to live in America? Why shouldn't they try right now? The border isn't being enforced. They're going to get inside and get either released into the population just randomly, or fly on a plane, or get in a bus. I mean, everything we're doing invites more people to cross. Is that
And that's
accurate?
absolutely true. And I'll say this, it's, you look at the migrants, it's heartbreaking to see the children. And of course they're doing it because their country is broken where they're coming from. But when are we going to shift the burden on Central American countries, on the rest of the world, and place the burden on them to take care of their U.S. citizens? Why is the burden being placed on the United States? Why is it us that has to take care of? We're compassionate people, we're humanitarians, but there's a right way to do it, and this is not the way to do it.
Very good point. Very good thought. Yeah. Okay. Well, Victor, I know I said I wouldn't take too much of your time today. I'm going to just tell our listeners again that this is his new book, Agent Under Fire, A Murder and a Manifesto. Victor Avila. It was about his experience in Mexico and very unfortunately and sadly lost his partner that he was working with in Mexico. I did see, without getting into much detail, didn't Senator Cornyn introduce a bill that is in part response to what occurred? You want to quickly tell about that?
Really quickly, unfortunately, last year, the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, after an appeal by two of the shooters in our case, they dismissed or vacated the murder charge that convicted them of the murder of Special Agent Jaime Zapata. And so, which is as disgusting as that is, we can't believe it. So right now, as I talk to you, there's no one being held for his murder. They're there for my attempted murder and other gun charges. So we, through the help of Senator Cornyn and other congressmen, we drafted a new bill because they said that because the murder occurred extraterritorially, meaning in Mexico, it didn't apply, even though we had other cases and case law that said it did. We have introduced a new bill, and it's the Jaime Zapata and Victor Avila Protection Act to include those words in there. It's a one-page bill, and we're hoping it passes through this legislation.
The bill would permit prosecution in federal courts for incidents that occurred in Mexico.
Of U.S. citizens, yes.
On U.S. citizens.
Yes.
Okay. The attackers, though, of you in Mexico, of you and your partner in Mexico, were not American citizens.
They're all Mexican nationals, part of the Zetas cartel.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, I love that you were such a fighter in that, and I'm so glad you're available to come in today. Honest to goodness, you see pictures on the news, you see pictures online. It looks terrible in Mexico, but to actually lay eyes, I actually want to give you one more chance. Anything else you want to say about the images, the thoughts you took away from being down at the border and really seeing what's happening there?
It is more than what you're hearing, and it is more of a chaos, more of a crisis. It really is a disaster down there. They are getting organized every day, better, and better. But my solution is not to build more facilities, not to send them to medical or Fort Bliss or military installations, or to Dallas or to Houston. That is not the solution. The solution is to enforce our laws. We don't have to pass new legislation. Let's just start enforcing. There's other laws, by the way, that are being ignored that we didn't even touch on. These individuals providing false statements to our U.S. agent. If you would provide a false statement to a U.S. agent, you would be prosecuted for that. But no one is being prosecuted for anything down there right now. We need to start sending a message that you will be caught, you will be detained, you will be prosecuted, and you will put in federal prison. Even if it's a 6-month stint, you will pay. That message will go down to the rest of the world like a wildfire, and that's how you stop them from coming. But until we continue to send that message that the border is open, they're going to continue to come.
And we formerly did enforce that particular one you just mentioned, that if you make a false statement to the Border Patrol, you may be prosecuted.
That's right.
But now we don't. Well, I wish I know we're out of time, but I would love to have heard more about what laws could be enforced. Maybe that'll be for next time.
Absolutely. Thank you, Debbie.
Victor Avila, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you so much.
Great to have you.